I have to buy toques and mittens again. Why do I have to buy this every year? I live in Canada. I shouldn't have to buy mittens every year, but I do. Hey everybody, welcome back to this cold Canadian day. I am here with yet another book review. So I'm actually doing one today that I should have done a long time ago. I just put off doing this one for so long just because it actually isn't an overly positive review. It's not a bad review, it's just not one I'm going to be gushing about. And that is going to be for The Siren Song by Mary Weber. I'm actually going to be reviewing the entire Storm Siren Trilogy by Mary Weber. The Storm Siren Trilogy consists of Storm Siren, Siren's Fury, and Siren Song. I was actually sent the Siren Song by the Fiction Guild, so from Thomas Nelson's Zondervan Fiction Guild, for a free and honest review, and that was way back in like spring. So I waited a while to do this, but here is going to be my honest review and opinions of this entire trilogy. So I initially bought the Storm Siren just because the covers of these books are incredible and the premise sounded so cool. And it is a Christian fiction. It is written by a youth pastor. Mary Weber has stated in some of the letters the Fiction Guild sent me that she is a youth pastor. So I was really excited to get a high fantasy series from a Christian publication company and was looking forward to the story. So the story follows Nim, who is a slave in a war-torn country of Phelan. She is an elemental, and an elemental is a very rare power and a rare gift. So she has like white hair to show that she is an elemental, and a lot of the elementals have been actually killed as children. So a lot of her people have even been wiped out, and it is actually extremely rare to have a female elemental. So she is actually passed from owner to owner to owner until she is finally bought by this one woman who sees her as a potential for a weapon against the enemy. I really liked the premise of the story, having somebody who can control the elements, having this fantastical world, and having this battle between good and evil. I was really kind of disappointed with the entire series, but I would be interested to pick up more by Mary Weber just to see what else she can do, because this is only her debut series. So for Storm Siren, it starts off with Nim being kind of taken in by this rich lady who's very dominant in the politics of this world to try and come up with a way to defeat the enemy. She is trained by this one guy whose name I forget, but she is trained by the male lead, who has this power of, he has a block against the other powers and gifts that these people have. So his has to do with a lot of touch, so he can kind of skin on skin contact and can help Nim control her powers. She meets a couple other people who have more different and also very high elements and powers that they control as well. So as the story progresses, of course, Nim and the male lead have this relationship that develops, and I have no idea how this relationship developed, to be honest. There was very poor development in this relationship. They were kind of friends. They kind of had this love you, hate you banter going on, but other than that, I don't really know how they developed a relationship. And a lot of the characters were just really irritating, and some of the side characters had great personalities, but Nim herself just rubbed me the wrong way because she just didn't want to listen to anybody. She had her own opinions. She wanted to fight everything. She's so used against fighting against the system and fighting against things that she just didn't want to listen to anybody, and she had such a great potential to be somebody different. She is also one of those strong female characters for the sake of being a strong female character, to kind of go with the trend of being a strong female character. So I was kind of disappointed in having a strong female character who really, personality-wise, wasn't a strong female character. As the books progressed, you get to know a lot more of the politics, so it's a very high politic setting, so it has a lot of court drama and court politics, which is kind of fascinating. The second book is a lot of that court politics and that court drama, so it got a little overbearing in the second book. And also in the second book, it got super dark really fast. Nim kind of plays with this dark magic and witchcraft, and it was just, I don't mind magic, wizardry, witchcraft. Like, I don't mind some of that when it's very fantastical element and you can separate the fantasy from the reality. But this one was just so dark and unnecessarily dark. and it just didn't need to be that dark and that demonic almost. And I was just really put off by that. She played with this darkness, and I wasn't too sure how it was going to go, because they're fighting this dark being, Dre Wolf, and it just got very dark very fast and very almost demonic, and there's some sort of possession that went on, and I wasn't a fan. And of course, Nim had some growth in this section, so I was really hoping Nim would really fight against this, and there was going to be this whole good and evil fight battle within her to discover a voice and a song of her own. So I was really hoping there was going to be that great change of what she finally sees that she needs to do. And toward the end of the book, it actually really felt like she was finally hitting this realization of being better than she is. And then the third book, she almost went right back to who she was initially, so but with more power and with more idea of who she is, but still stayed the same. So it was hit or miss. In the third book, it climaxed and you had this big finale battle, and it just was still super dark and unnecessarily so. So aside from the darkness, what I did like the writing style. I did like they had some comedic banter that broke it up. I did like the world that Mary Weber created. It was a very fascinating world, although I would have liked a couple of things to be fleshed out a bit more. She did mention some sort of creator and some sort of belief in some sort of creator system, but she didn't touch into any of that at all, or what the beliefs were, or what that was at all. And I really would have liked that to be played in a bit more. And it even had like the creator's song for Nim was mentioned once, but that's all, and that didn't really play a part in Nim's growth at all. So I would have liked to see that play a bit more in a part of Nim's growth and a part of that overall good versus evil fight. But the world initially was just really fascinating. The other thing I liked was, of course, the premise. The premise of the story was incredible. I would have loved to see this story done so, like, a little bit more different, but the premise of it was just fascinating, with the girl who can control the elements and the people who have other different gifts and powers and abilities as well, kind of fighting together to save this world. It was just an excellent premise, and I would like to see more. And I will pick up more by Mary Weber. I just not a fan of this series. Another thing that really bugged me is that it is published by a Christian publishing company. I know they have other branches of the company that do not publish Christian publishing, and Mary Weber has stated that she is in fact a youth pastor, a youth leader in her church, and she writes young adult fiction. But what bothered me so much about the series is the content. I was so bothered by the content of this series. There was a couple of female characters who were really sensually written, and the way they were walking and the way they attracted men. And there was one woman had a male harem, and this other girl was always described as really sensual and beautiful, and this other woman was the evil side of the sensual and beautiful. So it was just very sexualized of these two girls. And the one girl I really liked as a character, and I was just kind of disappointed she was so sensualized and sexualized, and I would have liked to see maybe less of that and more of a power growth from her as well. And then the evil girl was just overdone with the sensuality, and she used it against things. So it was just, I was kind of disappointed with that. Also, there was a lot of hints of things. So everything was, there was so many hints of slave houses, or they called pleasure houses, and jokes about Nim being a pleasure slave and other things like that. But, and normally content, if it's, I don't want fluffy, perfect, clean content that it's so that it almost makes me feel stupid reading it. I don't mind content if it's done well, but this was just, I'm trying to be edgy and cool, so I'm throwing this content in there, and I didn't like how so many times, like, there's a part where Nim and her friends are walking by a house and you hear screaming and whimpering and you know it's a pleasure house, and I was just, that really bothered me. Sex, rape, the sex market is not a form of entertainment for me, so I was really disappointed that that was in there. The other thing that bothered me, it was a weird thing that bothered me, but they had a made-up swearing system. I don't like a lot of swearing in my books. I'm okay with a few. I will not take the Lord's name in vain in my books. I do not like Jesus and God used wrongly in books, and I also do not like the F word in books. Those are both my two biggest pet peeves. Everything else, if it's not every second page, I'm okay with. And then this one, it made up its own swearing language, which I thought was interesting. but you kind of have an idea of what those words are replacing. And they were used so much, it became a swearing language. I think I counted almost 10 uses of those words per chapter. And it was like 6 pages a chapter. And I was just like, it just didn't need to be used as much. If it wasn't used as much, I would have been completely fine with it. I would have liked it actually as a made up swearing language if it wasn't used as much. I don't like swearing just for the sake of swearing and using swear words. And even a fake swearing language was swearing for the sake of using swear words. I just wasn't a fan of it. So unfortunately, this wasn't my favorite series. Obviously, I had a lot of problems with it. There was a few things that I liked and I would have liked to see done better. And like I said, it is a debut series, so I am willing to give the author another chance because I did like her writing style and I did like the premise of a story she created. She does have another series coming out. So I am definitely going to be giving her another chance and checking out her other series. I know with her young adult fiction, a lot more things are being implemented in young adult fiction that definitely weren't put in when I was a young adult. And I find that that was okay because sometimes young adults don't have the maturity to deal with some things that we throw into books. So for content wise, for me, why I'm harsher on young adult books and especially Christian fiction books is because I have expectations, especially of a Christian fiction book, to stand out against regular fiction and regular content. And for young adult fiction, I just think we can't gloss over everything, we can't hide anything, and we can't sugarcoat everything. So when you put content in it, put it in a way that you can help the reader grow and mature in it, and it does add to the story, but it's not there for the sake of being edgy and cool and in the story. So that was kind of what I discovered while reading this book series. And that's why it took me forever to actually do this review, because I know that this is not the popular opinion. A lot of people don't find that this content bothers them. And I have different reasons of why content bothers me. And like I said, the sexual part of it is not entertainment, especially if it's like pleasure houses, sex slave trading, and jokes about that. I don't find that entertaining, and that does not need to be in young adult fiction, and that definitely does not need to be in Christian young adult fiction. It's there, it's prevalent, it's in the world. If you mention it, don't do it in a form of entertainment that's kind of seen as, oh, this is everyday life in this world. If you do it in a way that does shade it in a negative view. It was shaded in a negative view, but again, it was a very, oh, this is everyday for us. It's bad, but it's everyday for us. So that's why it took me forever to do this review. So if you guys are understanding of that, let's chat it up in the comments below. If you want more information about this series, please feel free to chat me up. It's always harder to do a negative review than it is a positive review. So thank you for listening to my first negative review. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.